In the 1930s, grandmas made desserts under 5 minutes that mattered. Their quick treats brought families together and turned simple pantry staples into something just in 5 minutes. These 30 forgotten desserts might sound impossible today, but they filled kitchens with laughter and joy. Let's discover 30 quick desserts that show how grandmas made magic without fancy ingredients. The banana split became America's favorite quick dessert in the 1950s when soda fountains served it in long glass dishes. Grandmas replicated it at home by slicing one banana lengthwise, placing 3 scoops of ice cream, vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, between the halves, and topping each scoop with different sauces, chocolate syrup, strawberry jam, and crushed pineapple. Whipped cream rosettes, chopped nuts, and maraschino cherries finished the masterpiece in under 3 minutes. This wasn't just dessert, it was theater. Kids watched wide-eyed as Grandma assembled each layer, turning simple ingredients into a spectacular treat. The beauty of the banana split was its flexibility. Any ice cream flavor worked, any fruit topping sufficed, and even canned whipped cream replaced homemade in a pinch. Families gathered around the kitchen counter to watch Grandma create magic from a banana and a few pantry staples, proving elegance didn't require hours of work. Strawberries and whipped cream was the quintessential summer dessert that grandmas made when fresh berries appeared at farmers' markets. The recipe required only 3 ingredients: ripe strawberries, heavy cream, and sugar. Grandma sliced a pint of strawberries. I sprinkled them with a tablespoon of sugar and let them sit for 30 seconds to release their juices. Meanwhile, she poured cold, heavy cream into a chilled bowl and whipped it by hand or with a rotary beater for 90 seconds until soft peaks formed. A spoonful of sugar sweetened the cream perfectly. She spooned the berries into glass dishes, topped them with billowing whipped cream, and served immediately. This dessert showcased the season's best fruit without masking its flavor with complicated preparations. Kids loved the sweet-tart contrast, adults appreciated the elegance, and Grandma loved how 2 minutes of effort created a dessert that looked like it came from a fancy restaurant. No cooking, no baking, just fresh ingredients and quick hands. Before we move on, many of you asked in the comments where to find these recipes. We even received tons of email too, so we published these recipes on our website. The link is in the description. Let's continue. Rice Krispies treats became a 1950s phenomenon after Kellogg's published the recipe on cereal boxes. Grandmas made them in under 5 minutes by melting 3 tablespoons of butter in a large pot, adding a 10-ounce bag of marshmallows, and stirring constantly over low heat until smooth and glossy, about 2 minutes. She removed the pot from heat, dumped in 6 cups of Rice Krispies cereal, and stirred quickly to coat every piece before the mixture cooled. Using buttered hands, she pressed the sticky mixture into a greased 9 by 13-inch pan, flattened it evenly, and cut it into squares while still warm. The entire process took 5 minutes from stove to serving plate. These treats were perfect for unexpected guests, church bake sales, or after-school snacks. The crispy, chewy texture and sweet marshmallow flavor made them irresistible to children and adults alike. Grandma often doubled the batch because they disappeared within hours, proving simple ingredients could create legendary desserts. Before we move to the 4th one, no-bake chocolate oat cookies saved grandmas during hot summers when turning on the oven was unbearable. She combined 2 cups of sugar, half a cup of milk, 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, and a stick of butter in a saucepan, bringing the mixture to a rolling boil for exactly 1 minute. Timing was critical. Removing the pot from heat, she stirred in 3 cups of quick oats, a teaspoon of vanilla, and half a cup of peanut butter until fully incorporated. Working quickly before the mixture hardened, she dropped spoonfuls onto wax paper and let them set for 3 minutes. The cookies firmed up as they cooled, creating a fudgy, chewy texture that tasted like chocolate heaven. These cookies were Depression-era staples that remained popular through the 1960s because they required no eggs, no flour, and no baking. Grandma made them for bake sales, potlucks, and emergency desserts when company arrived unexpectedly. 1 pot, 5 minutes, and dozens of satisfied smiles. Stovetop chocolate pudding was Grandma's answer to expensive store-bought desserts. She whisked together half a cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, and a pinch of salt in a medium saucepan, slowly adding 2½ cups of milk while stirring constantly. She heated the mixture over medium heat until it thickened and bubbled, about 4 minutes. The pudding transformed from thin liquid to glossy custard before her eyes. She removed it from heat, stirred in a tablespoon of butter and a teaspoon of vanilla, and poured it into individual serving dishes. Served warm, this pudding was comfort in a bowl, rich, creamy, and deeply chocolatey. Unlike boxed instant pudding that appeared in the 1950s, stovetop pudding had superior flavor and velvety texture that couldn't be replicated. Grandma often made it after Sunday dinner, serving it warm with a dollop of whipped cream, proving homemade desserts didn't require hours of labor. These 5 desserts prove grandmas could create magic in under 5 minutes, from banana splits to stovetop pudding. Each recipe used simple ingredients and quick techniques that delivered spectacular results. No fancy equipment, no long recipes, just smart shortcuts that fed families and created memories. Let's discover 5 more forgotten favorites. Ambrosia salad was the food of the gods that appeared at every 1950s potluck and holiday table. Grandma opened a can of fruit cocktail, drained it well, and dumped it into a large bowl. She added a can of mandarin oranges, a cup of miniature marshmallows, a cup of shredded coconut, and a cup of sour cream or whipped cream, stirring everything together until evenly coated. Some grandmas added maraschino cherries for color, others threw in chopped pecans for crunch. The entire assembly took 4 minutes, and the salad was ready to serve immediately, no chilling required, though it tasted even better cold. This dessert salad hybrid confused modern palates, but in the 1950s it was considered elegant and sophisticated. The combination of sweet fruit, fluffy marshmallows, and creamy coconut created a texture experience that delighted children and adults alike. Grandma served it in her best crystal bowl, making canned fruit look like a gourmet creation. Banana pudding parfait became a 1960s sensation when instant pudding mix revolutionized home cooking. Grandma whisked together 1 box of instant vanilla pudding with 2 cups of cold milk for 2 minutes until thick and creamy. No cooking required. She sliced 2 ripe bananas into rounds and grabbed a box of vanilla wafers from the pantry. Working quickly, she layered pudding, banana slices, and vanilla wafers in tall glasses, and creating beautiful striped parfaits that looked bakery professional. The entire assembly took 4 minutes from mixing bowl to serving glass. Topped with a dollop of Cool Whip and a vanilla wafer garnish, these parfaits were elegant enough for company, yet simple enough for weeknight dessert. The pudding's creamy vanilla flavor complemented the sweet bananas perfectly, while the vanilla wafers added essential crunch. Unlike traditional baked banana pudding that required an hour in the oven, this instant version delivered the same nostalgic flavors in a fraction of the time. Peaches and cream epitomized simple elegance in 1950s dessert making. Grandma opened a can of sliced peaches, drained the syrup into a cup to save for later use, and arranged the golden slices in glass dessert bowls. She poured cold, heavy cream straight from the bottle over the peaches, added a sprinkle of sugar, and served immediately. The entire process took 2 minutes and required 0 cooking skills. Some grandmas used fresh peaches in summer, slicing them quickly and sprinkling them with sugar to release their juices. Others whipped the cream for 60 seconds to create soft peaks, making the presentation more elegant. The beauty of this dessert was its versatility. Canned or fresh, plain cream or whipped, it always tasted spectacular. The sweet peaches and rich cream created a perfect flavor balance that satisfied without overwhelming. Grandma often served this after heavy Sunday dinners because it was light, refreshing, and required no oven space when everything else was cooking. Jell-O Whip was a 1960s innovation that transformed ordinary gelatin into a fluffy, mousse-like dessert. Grandma dissolved 1 package of Jell-O powder in 1 cup of boiling water, stirring until completely dissolved, about 30 seconds. Instead of adding cold water and chilling for hours, she added 7 to 8 ice cubes and whipped the mixture with a rotary beater for 3 minutes. The Jell-O magically transformed from liquid to thick, fluffy foam that tripled in volume. She spooned it into dessert glasses and served immediately or refrigerated it for 5 minutes to firm up slightly. The texture was lighter than pudding, fluffier than regular Jell-O, and had a mousse-like consistency that melted on the tongue. Kids loved watching the transformation from liquid to foam. And Grandma loved how 1 box of Jell-O could serve 6 people. Any flavor worked: strawberry, lime, orange, lemon, making this an endlessly versatile quick dessert that required no special ingredients or equipment. Pudding was Grandma's secret weapon when unexpected guests arrived. She whisked together 3 tablespoons of minute tapioca, 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1 egg, and 2½ cups of milk in a saucepan. Bringing the mixture to a full boil over medium heat while stirring constantly, she cooked it for exactly 5 minutes until the tapioca pearls turned translucent and the pudding thickened. Removing it from heat, she stirred in a teaspoon of vanilla and poured it into serving dishes. The pudding could be served warm immediately or chilled for later, though most families ate it warm because waiting was torture. The texture was unique: creamy pudding studded with soft, chewy tapioca pearls that kids called fish eyes, but devoured anyway. Unlike old-fashioned tapioca that required overnight soaking and long cooking, minute tapioca delivered the same comforting dessert in 5 minutes flat. These 10 quick desserts showcase Grandma's genius for creating spectacular treats in under 5 minutes. From whipped Jell-O to stovetop puddings, each recipe delivered homemade flavor without hours of work. Simple ingredients, fast techniques, and unforgettable results prove the best desserts don't need complexity. Ready for items 11 through 20? Broiled grapefruit was a sophisticated 1950s treat that grandmas made for special breakfasts or when friends dropped by for tea. She preheated the broiler while cutting a large grapefruit in half horizontally, then used a sharp knife to separate each segment from the membrane, making it easy to eat with a spoon. Placing the halves cut side up in a baking dish, she sprinkled each with 2 tablespoons of brown sugar and a pinch of cinnamon, sometimes adding a dot of butter for extra richness. The grapefruit went under the broiler for 4 to 5 minutes until the sugar caramelized into a bubbling golden-brown crust that crackled when touched with a spoon. The transformation was magical. The heat intensified the grapefruit's natural sweetness, while the caramelized sugar added a candy-like coating that balanced the fruit's tartness perfectly. Some grandmas added a maraschino cherry in the center for color, others sprinkled shredded coconut on top before broiling. Peanut butter balls were the ultimate no-bake candy that grandmas made for family gatherings and surprise visits. She scooped 1 cup of creamy peanut butter into a mixing bowl, added 2 cups of powdered sugar, and stirred vigorously until the mixture formed a thick, dough-like consistency. Some grandmas added a tablespoon of softened butter to make rolling easier. Others threw in a handful of Rice Krispies for extra crunch. Using clean hands, she pinched off tablespoon-sized portions and rolled them into smooth balls, placing each on a sheet of wax paper. The candy was ready to eat immediately, no chilling required, though refrigerating them for 10 minutes made them firmer and easier to handle. Each bite delivered intense peanut butter flavor with a fudge-like texture that melted slowly on the tongue. The powdered sugar sweetness balanced the peanut butter's saltiness perfectly, creating an addictive combination that everyone loved. These candies became beloved in the 1960s when peanut butter was a modern pantry staple. Grandmas made them for holiday cookie trays, kept a batch in the refrigerator for when neighbors stopped by, and always had some ready when grandchildren visited. Some dipped the balls in melted chocolate for a fancier presentation, but most families preferred them plain. The recipe required only 2 ingredients, 4 minutes of work, and produced dozens of candies that brought smiles to every face. Kids loved helping Grandma roll the balls, and the kitchen filled with laughter and the sweet smell of peanut butter. Instant pudding parfait revolutionized dessert making when Jell-O introduced instant pudding in the late 1950s. Grandma poured 1 box of instant chocolate pudding mix into a bowl, added 2 cups of cold milk, and whisked vigorously for 2 minutes until the pudding thickened to a perfect consistency. No cooking, no waiting, pure magic. While the pudding set for 30 seconds, she grabbed tall parfait glasses and a container of Cool Whip from the refrigerator. The assembly was pure artistry that made every occasion feel special. She spooned a layer of chocolate pudding into the bottom of each glass, added a generous layer of Cool Whip, then repeated the pattern until the glass was filled with beautiful chocolate and white stripes. A final dollop of Cool Whip crowned each parfait, and she added a maraschino cherry or chocolate shavings for an elegant finishing touch. These parfaits looked bakery professional, but took only 3 minutes to assemble, making them perfect for spontaneous gatherings or a quick treat when friends dropped by. The creamy chocolate pudding contrasted beautifully with the fluffy whipped topping, creating layers of texture and flavor in every spoonful. Kids loved eating them with long spoons, carefully scooping through each layer to get pudding and cream in every bite. Grandma often made these for bridge club meetings, church potlucks, and Sunday dinners because they impressed guests without requiring hours of preparation. An instant pudding transformed home dessert making, and these parfaits proved convenience and elegance could coexist perfectly. Canned cherries. Jubilee brought restaurant glamour home in the 1950s when flambéed desserts symbolized sophistication. Grandma opened a can of dark, sweet cherries, drained the syrup into a small saucepan, and added 2 tablespoons of sugar and a tablespoon of cornstarch. She heated the mixture over medium heat, stirring constantly until it thickened into a glossy sauce, about 3 minutes. Adding the cherries back to the warm sauce, she stirred gently to coat each cherry in the syrupy glaze. The presentation made every gathering memorable. Grandma scooped vanilla ice cream into fancy dessert bowls, then spooned the hot cherry sauce over the cold ice cream, creating a delicious temperature contrast that made each bite exciting. The warm cherries melted the ice cream slightly, creating rivers of pink cream that mixed with the deep red sauce. Some grandmas added a splash of almond extract to the sauce for extra flavor. Others sprinkled slivered almonds on top for crunch. This dessert became a favorite for dinner parties and special family meals because it looked impressive, yet required only 4 minutes of stovetop cooking. The combination of tart cherries, sweet syrup, and cold vanilla ice cream created flavor complexity. Butterscotch pudding was Grandma's secret weapon for creating comfort on busy days or when unexpected guests arrived. She combined 3/4 cup of brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, and a pinch of salt in a medium saucepan, whisking them together until no lumps remained. Slowly adding 2½ cups of milk while stirring constantly, she cooked the mixture over medium heat, watching it transform from thin liquid to thick, glossy pudding in about 4 minutes. The butterscotch flavor developed as the brown sugar caramelized slightly, filling the kitchen with a warm, toffee-like aroma that drew everyone to the table. Removing the pudding from heat, she stirred in 2 tablespoons of butter and a teaspoon of vanilla extract, making it extra rich and smooth. She poured the hot pudding into individual serving dishes and served it warm, though some families preferred it chilled. The flavor was deeper and more complex than chocolate pudding, sweet with hints of caramel and molasses that tasted like liquid candy. This pudding became a 1950s staple because it required only pantry ingredients and delivered restaurant-quality results in 5 minutes. Grandma often made it on rainy afternoons when the family needed something comforting or when friends stopped by unexpectedly and she wanted to offer something homemade. Kids loved it warm with a splash of cold milk on top. Adults appreciated the sophisticated butterscotch flavor that reminded them of penny candy from childhood. 1 pot, 5 minutes, and pure happiness in every spoonful, proof that the best desserts came from Grandma's quick thinking and loving hands. These 5 desserts show how grandmas created restaurant-quality treats in under 5 minutes, perfect for family gatherings or when friends dropped by. From broiled grapefruit to butterscotch pudding, each recipe delivered homemade warmth without hours of work, simple ingredients, quick techniques, and memories that lasted forever. Let's discover 5 more classics. Depression donuts were born from necessity during the 1930s when families needed treats but couldn't afford fancy ingredients. Grandma opened a tube of refrigerated biscuit dough, separated each biscuit, and used a bottle cap to punch a hole in the center, creating perfect donut rings. She heated vegetable oil or lard in a deep skillet until a test piece of dough sizzled immediately when dropped in, about 350 degrees. Working in small batches, she carefully slid the dough rings into the hot oil, frying them for 90 seconds on the first side until golden brown, then flipping them with a slotted spoon to fry another 60 seconds on the second side. The doughnuts puffed up beautifully, emerging from the oil crispy outside and fluffy inside. She drained them on paper towels for 30 seconds, then, while still warm, tossed them in a bowl of cinnamon sugar until completely coated. The entire batch, a dozen doughnuts, took 5 minutes from package to plate. These quick treats brought joy during hard times and remained popular through the 1950s because they tasted like bakery doughnuts but cost pennies to make. Grandma made them on Saturday mornings when grandchildren visited, the kitchen filling with the sweet smell of frying dough and cinnamon. Kids ate them warm, sugar crystals sparkling on their fingers, never guessing these fancy doughnuts started as simple biscuit dough. This recipe proved creativity and love could turn the simplest ingredients into special moments that everyone cherished. Vanilla cornstarch. Pudding was Grandma's blank canvas, a simple base that could become any flavor imaginable. She whisked together 1/2 cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, and a pinch of salt in a medium saucepan until well combined. Slowly pouring in 2½ cups of cold milk while stirring constantly, she heated the mixture over medium heat, watching carefully as it thickened. After about 4 minutes, the pudding transformed from thin liquid to thick, glossy custard that coated the back of a spoon. She removed it from heat immediately to prevent scorching, then stirred in a tablespoon of butter and 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. The pudding could be served warm immediately or poured into individual dishes and chilled for later. Both versions were delicious. The vanilla flavor was pure and clean, not artificial or overpowering like some store-bought puddings. Some grandmas added a beaten egg yolk to make it extra rich. Others topped it with a sprinkle of nutmeg or a spoonful of jam. This pudding became a 1940s staple because it required no eggs, important during wartime rationing, no special equipment, and ingredients every household kept on hand. Grandma made it when she wanted something comforting and quick, perfect for a weeknight dessert or when neighbors stopped by for coffee. The smooth, creamy texture and gentle sweetness satisfied without overwhelming, making it a favorite for all ages. 1 pot, 5 minutes, and a dessert that tasted like pure childhood comfort, simple, honest, and made with love. Grasshopper parfait was the sophisticated 1960s dessert that grandmas served when they wanted to impress guests at dinner parties. She prepared 1 box of instant vanilla pudding with 2 cups of cold milk, whisking for 2 minutes until thick and creamy. Instead of serving it plain, she added a few drops of green food coloring and a 1/4 teaspoon of peppermint extract, transforming ordinary pudding into elegant mint cream that matched the famous grasshopper cocktail in color and flavor. Some grandmas used crème de menthe liqueur for authentic taste, but most relied on peppermint extract for family-friendly versions. Working quickly, she layered the mint pudding with Cool Whip in tall parfait glasses, creating beautiful green and white stripes that looked professionally made. Crushed chocolate sandwich cookies went between some layers, adding dark contrast and chocolatey crunch. A final dollop of Cool Whip crowned each parfait, and she garnished with a mint leaf or chocolate shavings for extra elegance. These parfaits became the star of 1960s entertaining because they looked fancy, yet took only 4 minutes to assemble. The cool mint flavor refreshed after heavy meals, and the creamy texture melted smoothly on the tongue. Guests always asked for the recipe, amazed when Grandma revealed it was just instant pudding with peppermint flavoring. She served them in her best crystal glasses with long spoons, making everyone feel special. This dessert proved that with smart shortcuts and pretty presentation, any home cook could create restaurant-quality treats that impressed guests and created wonderful memories at every gathering. Fruit fool was an Old English dessert that grandmas simplified into a 4-minute masterpiece perfect for summer gatherings. She grabbed whatever fresh or frozen berries were available, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, or a mix, and mashed them with a fork in a bowl, adding 2 tablespoons of sugar to release their juices. The fruit needed to be roughly crushed, but not pureed, leaving chunky pieces for texture. In a separate bowl, she whipped 1 cup of cold, heavy cream with an electric or rotary beater for 2 minutes until soft peaks formed, adding a tablespoon of sugar and a splash of vanilla. The magic happened when she gently folded the crushed fruit into the whipped cream, creating beautiful pink or purple swirls that marbled through the white cream. She didn't mix it completely smooth. The streaks of color and chunks of fruit made each spoonful different and exciting. Spooning the fool into glass dessert cups, she served it immediately or chilled it for a few minutes. This dessert became a 1950s favorite because it showcased seasonal fruit without masking natural flavors with heavy preparations. The name fool came from the French word fouler, meaning to crush, and grandmas loved how such a simple technique created something so elegant. She made it when berries were abundant and cheap, or when she needed a quick dessert for Sunday supper. The combination of tart fruit and sweet cream was refreshing after heavy meals, and the pretty presentation made everyone feel like they were eating something special, even though it took only 4 minutes to create. Coconut snowballs were the no-bake candy that grandmas made when winter holidays arrived or when she wanted a quick sweet treat for family gatherings. She poured half a can of sweetened condensed milk into a mixing bowl, about 3/4 cup, and added 2 cups of shredded coconut, stirring until every strand was coated in the sticky, sweet milk. The mixture should be thick enough to hold together when pressed, but not so dry that it crumbled. If needed, she added more condensed milk by the tablespoon until the consistency was perfect. Using clean hands or a small cookie scoop, she formed tablespoon-sized portions into tight balls, rolling them between her palms until smooth and round. The condensed milk acted as both sweetener and binder, eliminating the need for eggs or cooking. She placed each snowball on a sheet of wax paper and let them sit for just a minute to firm up slightly, though they were ready to eat immediately. These candies became popular in the 1950s because they looked elegant, perfect white spheres that resembled real snowballs, yet required only 2 ingredients and 3 minutes of work. Grandma made them for Christmas cookie trays, packed them in pretty tins for neighbor gifts, and always kept a batch ready when family visited. Kids loved their chewy texture and sweet coconut flavor. Adults appreciated how 1 or 2 satisfied sweet cravings perfectly. Some grandmas rolled them in extra coconut or dipped them in melted chocolate for variety, but the simple version was everyone's favorite: pure, sweet, and made with love. These 10 quick desserts, from broiled grapefruit to coconut snowballs, prove grandmas could create magic in under 5 minutes, perfect for family gatherings or when friends dropped by. Each recipe used simple ingredients and delivered memories that lasted forever. Which of these did your mother or grandmother make for you as a special treat? Whipped cream and jam roll-ups were Grandma's elegant tea-time treat that looked fancy, but took only 3 minutes to assemble. She laid out slices of soft white bread, the thin sliced sandwich bread worked best, and used a rolling pin to flatten each slice until it was compressed and pliable, almost like a thin pancake. This rolling made the bread flexible enough to roll without cracking. She trimmed off the crusts with a sharp knife, creating perfect rectangles that would roll neatly, spreading a thin layer of her favorite jam across each flattened slice. Strawberry, raspberry, or grape were most common. She worked quickly to cover the entire surface evenly. Then came the magic. She piped or spooned a line of freshly whipped cream along one edge of the jam-covered bread, creating a thick stripe of fluffy white cream. Starting from the cream edge, she carefully rolled the bread into a tight spiral, creating a pinwheel effect with jam and cream swirled throughout. She sliced each roll into 3 or 4 smaller pieces, revealing the beautiful spiral pattern inside, alternating layers of white bread, red jam, and fluffy cream that looked like something from a bakery. Arranged on a pretty plate with the spiral side up, these roll-ups impressed guests who never guessed they were just bread, jam, and whipped cream. The texture was wonderful: soft bread, sweet jam, and light cream combined in every bite. Some grandmas dusted the finished rolls with powdered sugar for extra elegance. Others used different colored jams to create variety on the serving plate. A few creative grandmas spread cream cheese instead of whipped cream for a tangier flavor that balanced the jam's sweetness. These became popular at 1950s bridge clubs, afternoon teas, and ladies' luncheons because they looked sophisticated yet required no cooking whatsoever. Grandma made them when she wanted to serve something special without heating the kitchen, and they were perfect finger foods that guests could eat delicately without making a mess. The combination of familiar ingredients presented in an unexpected way made these memorable, proving that creativity mattered more than expensive ingredients when it came to impressing guests and creating moments of simple elegance. Instant coffee parfait became a sophisticated 1960s dessert when instant coffee transformed from a wartime necessity into a modern convenience embraced by home cooks everywhere. Grandma dissolved 2 tablespoons of instant coffee granules, Folgers or Maxwell House were household staples, in 2 tablespoons of hot water, creating a concentrated coffee syrup that would flavor the entire dessert without making it watery. She let this cool for 30 seconds while she prepared the other components. In a mixing bowl, she combined 1 cup of heavy whipping cream with 2 tablespoons of sugar, and beat it with a rotary beater or electric mixer for about 2 minutes until soft peaks formed. The cream should be thick enough to hold its shape, but not so stiff it became butter. She drizzled the cooled coffee concentrate into the whipped cream and folded it gently with a rubber spatula, creating beautiful coffee-colored swirls throughout the white cream without fully mixing them together. This marbled effect was part of the visual appeal. Working quickly, she layered the coffee cream in tall glasses alternating with crushed vanilla wafers or graham crackers, creating distinct layers that showed through the glass beautifully. She started with a spoonful of cookie crumbs at the bottom, added a generous layer of coffee cream, another layer of crumbs, more cream, and finished with a final dollop of cream topped with a few whole coffee beans or a dusting of cocoa powder for elegant presentation. The dessert was ready to serve immediately, though chilling it for 5 minutes allowed the cookie crumbs to soften slightly and meld with the cream. Each spoonful delivered intense coffee flavor balanced by sweet cream and the pleasant crunch of cookie crumbs. Some grandmas added a tablespoon of coffee liqueur for adult gatherings, others used chocolate wafer cookies instead of vanilla for a mocha variation. This parfait impressed dinner guests who assumed it required complicated preparation, when in reality it was just whipped cream, instant coffee, and cookies assembled cleverly. Grandma served them in her prettiest glasses, making instant coffee feel gourmet and proving that presentation and smart flavor combinations could elevate simple ingredients into restaurant-quality desserts. Sugar and cinnamon toast strips were the after-school treat that every child begged for, simple enough that older kids could make them independently, yet delicious enough that adults sneaked pieces from the cooling rack. Grandma preheated the oven broiler to high while mixing together a 1/4 cup of white sugar with 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon in a small bowl, creating the signature coating that would transform ordinary toast into something special. She laid thick slices of white bread, usually 4 to 6 slices, on a baking sheet in a single layer. Spreading softened butter generously across each bread slice, about a tablespoon per slice, she made sure to cover every inch right to the edges so the sugar mixture would stick evenly. The butter should be soft enough to spread without tearing the bread but not melted into liquid. She sprinkled the cinnamon sugar mixture liberally over the buttered bread, using about a tablespoon per slice and making sure the coverage was even and generous. This wasn't the time to be stingy with the sweet topping. The baking sheet went under the hot broiler for 2 to 3 minutes, positioned about 4 inches from the heat source. Grandma watched carefully through the oven window as the magic happened. The butter melted and mixed with the sugar, creating a bubbling caramelized coating, and the bread edges turned golden brown and crispy. The sugar should be melted and slightly caramelized but not burnt, and the bread should be toasted but not dried out. Using a sharp knife, she cut each slice into 4 strips while still hot, creating finger-sized pieces that were easy for small hands to hold and perfect for dunking into cold milk. The strips had a wonderful contrast: crispy, caramelized tops with sweet cinnamon flavor and soft, tender bread underneath that soaked up milk beautifully. These became a staple after-school snack throughout the 1940s and beyond because they required ingredients every household kept on hand and took only 4 minutes from bread box to table. Grandma made them when grandchildren visited, when someone needed comfort food, and when the house needed that irresistible cinnamon aroma that made everyone feel welcome and loved. Quick Chocolate Sauce Sundae brought ice cream parlor magic home when Grandma made homemade chocolate sauce from scratch in 5 minutes flat. She combined half a cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, 3/4 cup of white sugar, and a pinch of salt in a small saucepan, whisking them together until no lumps remained. Slowly adding half a cup of milk while stirring constantly, she created a thick paste first, then a smooth liquid as more milk incorporated. She added 2 tablespoons of butter and placed the pan over medium heat. Stirring constantly with a wooden spoon, she watched as the mixture came to a gentle boil and the butter melted completely into the chocolate sauce. She let it boil for exactly 1 minute, stirring continuously to prevent scorching, then removed it from heat and stirred in a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. The sauce transformed from thin liquid to thick, glossy chocolate that would coat a spoon and drip slowly, the perfect consistency for sundaes. While the sauce cooled for 30 seconds, it should be warm but not scalding hot, she scooped vanilla ice cream into pretty glass dishes, creating generous mounds that would hold the sauce in valleys and pools. Drizzling the warm chocolate sauce over the cold ice cream created dramatic visual appeal as the sauce partially melted the ice cream, creating rivers of chocolate mixing with vanilla cream. She topped each sundae with a generous dollop of whipped cream, a maraschino cherry, and sometimes chopped nuts or a sprinkle of rainbow jimmies for color and crunch. The contrast between cold ice cream and warm sauce, between sweet vanilla and rich chocolate, created the classic sundae experience that everyone loved. What made this special wasn't just the taste, but the experience of watching Grandma make real chocolate sauce from scratch, while ice cream waited in bowls and anticipation built. This homemade version tasted infinitely better than store-bought chocolate syrup, with deeper cocoa flavor and velvety texture that coated the mouth luxuriously. Grandma made these for birthday celebrations, Sunday desserts after heavy meals, and hot summer afternoons when ice cream was the only acceptable dinner option. Lemon Fluff was Grandma's light and airy dessert that tasted like sunshine in a bowl, perfect for summer afternoons and after heavy meals when something refreshing was needed. She separated 2 large eggs. In placing the whites in a spotlessly clean mixing bowl, any trace of yolk or grease would prevent proper whipping, and reserving the yolks for another use like custard or scrambled eggs the next morning. Using a rotary beater or electric mixer on high speed, she beat the egg whites for about 2 minutes until they formed stiff peaks that stood straight up when the beater was lifted. Gradually adding a 1/4 cup of white sugar while continuing to beat, she created a stable meringue that was glossy, thick, and sweet. The sugar dissolved into the egg whites, making them even shinier and more stable. She added the juice of 1 large lemon, about 3 tablespoons, and the grated zest of that lemon. Then beat for another 30 seconds until the lemon was fully incorporated and the mixture turned pale yellow with tiny flecks of zest throughout. The result was a cloud-like dessert with intense lemon flavor, tart, sweet, and refreshing all at once. She spooned the lemon fluff into small dessert cups or glasses and served it immediately, though it could sit for 10 minutes without deflating significantly. Some grandmas folded in a half-cup of whipped cream before serving to make it even richer and more stable. Others served it over fresh berries or pound cake slices for a more substantial dessert. The texture was unlike anything else, light as air, dissolving on the tongue like meringue, but with bright lemon flavor that awakened taste buds and cleansed the palate. Kids loved the fluffy texture and sweet tart taste. Adults appreciated how refreshing it was after heavy fried foods or rich casseroles. This dessert showcased Grandma's understanding of how egg whites worked and her ability to create something elegant from ingredients she already had on hand. 5 minutes of beating transformed 2 egg whites and a lemon into a dessert worthy of fancy restaurants, proving technique mattered as much as ingredients. These 5 new desserts, from whipped cream roll-ups to lemon fluff, show how grandmas turned simple pantry ingredients into elegant treats in under 5 minutes. Each recipe delivered impressive results without complicated techniques or expensive ingredients. Smart shortcuts, creativity, and love transformed ordinary moments into special memories. Let's discover the final 5 classics. Orange Cream Float was the nostalgic soda fountain treat that Grandma recreated at home in 2 minutes, bringing drugstore magic to her kitchen. She started by scooping 2 generous bowls of vanilla ice cream into a tall glass, the classic fountain glass if she had one, or any tall glass that would show off the beautiful color layers. The ice cream should be firm enough to hold its shape, but not rock hard from the freezer, ideally sitting out for 2 minutes to soften slightly. She slowly poured cold orange soda, Fanta, Crush, or Sunkist were popular brands, over the ice cream, watching as the carbonated orange liquid hit the cold cream and created instant fizzing foam that rose dramatically toward the rim. The key was pouring slowly to control the foam and prevent overflow, tilting the glass slightly and pouring down the side rather than directly onto the ice cream. As the soda mixed with melting ice cream, it created beautiful orange and cream swirls throughout the glass. The result was a gorgeous layered drink with vanilla ice cream floating on top, creamy orange foam in the middle, and clear orange soda at the bottom. She served it immediately with a long spoon and a straw so it could be both sipped and spooned, enjoying different textures and flavors with every taste, sometimes pure orange soda, sometimes creamy vanilla, sometimes the perfect blend of both. The flavor combination was magical. Sweet orange citrus balanced by rich vanilla cream, cold and refreshing with a creamy finish. As the ice cream slowly melted, the drink became creamier and more indulgent, transforming from soda to something closer to an orange creamsicle in liquid form. Some grandmas used root beer instead for a classic root beer float, like others tried grape or strawberry soda for variety. These floats became the ultimate summer treat and after-school reward, served on hot porches while grandchildren told stories about their day. Grandma made them for birthday parties, weekend treats, and any time someone needed cheering up, proving that happiness could be created in 2 minutes with ice cream and soda. Maple Walnut Whip was Grandma's sophisticated dessert that showcased pure maple syrup's rich flavor in a light, airy preparation that impressed dinner guests. She poured 1 cup of cold, heavy whipping cream into a chilled mixing bowl. Cold cream whipped faster and better than room-temperature cream. Using a rotary beater or electric mixer on high speed, she beat the cream for about 90 seconds until it started thickening noticeably, then drizzled in 3 tablespoons of pure maple syrup, not pancake syrup, but real maple syrup with its complex, woodsy sweetness. Continuing to beat for another minute, she watched as the cream transformed into thick, glossy whipped cream with beautiful pale amber color from the maple syrup. The cream should form soft peaks that held their shape but weren't stiff or grainy. She folded in a half-cup of finely chopped walnuts, toasted first for extra flavor and crunch, using a rubber spatula with gentle folding motions that distributed the nuts evenly without deflating the delicate whipped cream. Spooning the maple walnut whip into pretty dessert cups or champagne glasses, she garnished each with a perfect walnut half on top and perhaps a tiny drizzle of additional maple syrup for visual appeal. The dessert was ready to serve immediately, though it could be refrigerated for up to an hour without separating or deflating significantly. Each spoonful delivered complex maple flavor enhanced by the richness of cream and the earthy crunch of walnuts. The texture was cloud-like and luxurious, melting on the tongue, while the walnuts provided pleasant textural contrast. This wasn't overly sweet, despite the maple syrup. The cream balanced the sweetness perfectly, creating sophisticated flavor that appealed to adult palates. Grandma served this at autumn dinner parties when maple syrup and walnuts were seasonal highlights, at holiday gatherings as an elegant alternative to heavy pies, and whenever she wanted to showcase local maple syrup from nearby farms. The simplicity of 3 ingredients whipped together in 4 minutes impressed guests who assumed complicated preparations were required, proving once again that the best desserts often came from respecting quality ingredients. Quick berry compote over ice cream transformed fresh or frozen berries into an elegant dessert sauce that made plain ice cream feel gourmet and restaurant quality. Grandma poured 2 cups of mixed berries, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, or whatever combination was available and affordable at the market, into a small, heavy-bottomed saucepan. Fresh berries were wonderful during summer peak season when they were abundant and inexpensive, but frozen berries worked perfectly year-round and were often cheaper, requiring no washing, hulling, or trimming. She added a 1/4 cup of white granulated sugar and 2 tablespoons of water to help the berries break down and release their natural juices into a syrupy sauce. Placing the pan over medium-high heat, she stirred gently with a wooden spoon as the berries heated and the sugar dissolved into the liquid. Within 2 to 3 minutes, the mixture came to a gentle bubbling boil, and the berries began breaking apart naturally, releasing their vibrant purple-red juices that mixed with the dissolved sugar to create a thick, glossy syrup that coated the spoon beautifully. She used the back of her spoon to mash some of the berries against the side of the pan to thicken the compote and intensify the color, while deliberately leaving some berries whole for visual appeal and textural interest in every spoonful. A generous squeeze of fresh lemon juice, about a tablespoon, went in at the 4-minute mark, brightening the berry flavor and balancing the sweetness perfectly with just enough tartness to keep the sauce from being cloying. Honey butter biscuit bites were the warm, comforting treat that Grandma made when she needed dessert instantly and had nothing but a tube of refrigerated biscuit dough in the refrigerator and a few basic pantry staples. She preheated the oven broiler to high heat while opening a tube of refrigerated biscuit dough. Pillsbury Grands or any brand worked perfectly, popping the cardboard tube and separating the 8 biscuits onto a clean cutting board. Using a sharp knife, she cut each biscuit into quarters, creating 32 small pieces that would cook quickly under the intense broiler heat and be perfect bite-sized portions for popping into mouths while still steaming hot. She arranged the biscuit quarters on a baking sheet in a single layer with adequate spacing, making sure they didn't touch each other, so each piece would brown evenly on all sides and puff up properly without steaming against neighboring pieces. The sheet went under the hot preheated broiler for 2 to 3 minutes, positioned about 6 inches from the heating element so they would puff dramatically and brown beautifully without burning on top or remaining raw in the center. She watched carefully through the oven window as they transformed before her eyes. The tops turning golden brown with darker spots, the sides puffing up as the layered dough expanded from the intense direct heat, and the entire kitchen filling with the irresistible aroma of fresh-baked bread. While the biscuits broiled, she made the honey butter coating by mixing together 3 tablespoons of softened butter with 2 tablespoons of pure honey in a small bowl, stirring vigorously with a fork until completely combined, smooth, and glossy. Some grandmas added a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon to this mixture for extra warmth and spice that complemented the honey beautifully. Others used a tiny pinch of salt. Vanilla wafer sandwich cookies were Grandma's clever way to create fancy bakery-style cookies in 3 minutes flat using store-bought vanilla wafers and simple homemade fillings that transformed ordinary cookies into something special enough for company. She opened a box of Nilla wafers, the classic crispy vanilla cookies that every household kept in the pantry for banana pudding and snacking, and poured them onto the counter, pairing them up carefully by size to make sure each sandwich would have evenly matched cookies top and bottom for professional appearance. She spread about 40 cookies face up on the clean counter in neat rows, ready for quick assembly line filling. The filling options were nearly endless, and Grandma adjusted based on what she had available, but the most popular and classic version was a simple mixture of softened cream cheese and powdered sugar, 4 ounces of cream cheese beaten with 1/2 cup of sifted powdered sugar, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract until smooth, fluffy, and easily spreadable. Some grandmas used creamy peanut butter straight from the jar for a quick protein-rich filling that kids especially loved. Others made a simple buttercream by beating softened butter with powdered sugar and a splash of vanilla or almond extract, and a few used store-bought Nutella, marshmallow fluff, or lemon curd for variety and different flavor profiles. But the key requirement was a filling thick enough to hold its shape and not squish out when the cookies were pressed together, but soft enough to spread easily without breaking the delicate, crispy cookies. Using a butter knife or small offset spatula, she spread about a rounded teaspoon of filling on the flat side of one cookie, working it almost to the edges but not quite, then pressed a matching cookie flat side down on top, creating a perfect sandwich with just a thin ring of filling peeking out appealingly around the edges. She worked quickly in efficient assembly line fashion, spreading filling on 10 cookies in a row before going back to top them all, creating 20 perfect sandwich cookies in about 3 minutes, total working time, a speed that impressed anyone watching her practiced movements. The result was a cookie that looked homemade, bakery quality, and special, but required absolutely 0 baking skill or time in the oven. The crispy vanilla wafer provided perfect crunch and delicate vanilla flavor, while the creamy filling added richness, moisture, and flavor variety that made each bite more interesting and satisfying than a plain cookie. Kids loved them because they were fun to eat. You could twist them apart like Oreos to lick the filling first, eat them whole in 2 bites, or dunk them briefly in cold milk and watch the filling get soft and creamy while the cookies absorbed just enough milk to become tender without falling apart. Grandma made these for lunchbox treats that looked more special and impressive than plain store-bought cookies. For afternoon tea when her ladies' club met at the house, and she wanted something sweet without spending hours baking, and for last-minute dessert emergencies when she forgot to plan anything but needed something sweet to serve after dinner. She arranged them carefully on her prettiest plates in neat concentric circles, or stacked them in a pyramid on a cake stand, and guests always assumed they were fancy specialty cookies from an expensive bakery, never guessing they were just vanilla wafers with filling assembled in her kitchen minutes before serving, proving once again that presentation and creativity could transform humble ingredients into something that looked and tasted expensive and impressive. These 30 vintage desserts prove our grandmothers were absolute kitchen geniuses who could create magic in under 5 minutes using nothing but simple ingredients and quick techniques. From banana splits, assembled in 3 minutes, to depression donuts, fried in 5, from stovetop puddings that cooked while you stirred, to no-bake cookies that set on wax paper before your eyes, every single recipe delivered homemade flavor and satisfaction without requiring hours of labor or fancy equipment. Which of these desserts did your mother or grandmother make for you as a special treat? Did she have her own version with a secret ingredient or special technique? Share your stories in the comments below. Let's keep these precious recipes and memories alive for the next generation.